Remember, I've been saying over and over again, history is not about the past alone. It is about what we learn from the past that takes us forward into the future. And now we're looking as a world, as a universe, into a different way of understanding, as Pope Francis calls it, our common home. So this final piece is about newer discoveries, new scientific discoveries that have been introduced to us and that have introduced elements of creation beyond earlier reckonings in ways that we've not been able to imagine until now. And we're still learning and growing and opening. So we're talking about the mystery of our universe. All of us learned that beautiful, poetic story of the creation of the world. And I hope we're all learning that it is a story. It is a poetic way of expressing the inexpressible. And what we're trying to do now is learn the amazing, extraordinary evolution and continual growth of the universe, of this gift and everything else that touches it, that surrounds it. So, we're talking about the mystery of the universe, which we have learned from our history and our science has a history of about 13.8 billion years. That's how old scientists have determined, approximately, that our universe is. We begin with some kind of a singular event, which we've always called the Big Bang. And yet, what that is has not yet been explained or discovered or fully understood by any of the scientists who've been working in this field. But that's the beginning of what we think of as the universe. The exploration of the universe opens up a whole new way of imagining our amazing creation. We learn that our whole life, our whole existence, is interconnected in the deepest, most profound way. Well, we celebrate our own uniqueness. Each of us is a unique person, and we study the uniqueness of human reality. We realize at the same time that we are not really separate from each other, or for that matter, from anything else in the universe. We are all one. Furthermore, the universe is not a static thing. It's like, okay, there it is, and it just sits up there in outer space. It's not static. It's continually expanding in an evolutionary movement. We continually are, not just we, but the universe and we in it are continually becoming. every day, growing into deeper communion, into more profound beauty, into opening ourselves to who God really is. And we know we will never be finished with that discovery. The universe is future-oriented, ever evolving. The universe doesn't look back. It's grounded in the past, but it doesn't. It's future-oriented, ever evolving, continually unfinished. We had an article in our Just Words that said something about the unfinished universe, and it made all the difference in the world. We are always reaching for greater meaning. If you think about it, as humans, we are always reaching for greater meaning. And so is the whole universe. This moves us beyond a narrow way of thinking to an inclusive, cosmic understanding. It has the potential, and you think about the world today when I say this, it has the potential to draw us all together in unity, recognizing that we are all related, we are all neighbors of one another. And we know how far away we are from that right now. And yet, the universe is urging us towards that. So we move forward by collaborating, not competing, for scarce resources. We share abundance of Earth's gifts. At least that's what we're meant to do. Imagine what this could mean in a world that seems intent on battling over scarce resources. A world that seems intent on despising those who are different from ourselves, competing with power over others. Imagine what opening our minds and our hearts and our worlds to this spacious world, this spacious way of being that creates harmony and blessing among us. Imagine what that could mean. And this is not a fairy tale. It's not something somebody made up and wrote up to try to convince us of something. The discovery is coming from something that has not happened probably since the beginning of the world. But scientists, we know, have been studying the universe and all of its mysteries for a long time. But in recent times, at least in some circles, theologians, people who study about God, have joined scientists in trying to understand the mystery of the universe. Scientists and theologians are working together to open the whole universe to discovery and celebration. What kind of future might be available to every person if we learned how to honor differences in our faith practice instead of fighting over them? If we learned to know God in multitudes of ways, because God is more multitudes of ways than we can ever imagine. And we make God so small. I remember, this is just an aside, I remember when I was a child, or maybe a teenager, and we were talking about the faith, Catholic faith, of course. And I could never understand how a God who was so vast and so large and so expansive would only let this small group of people into heaven. I never could understand that, and I no longer believe it, because God is expansive. And we don't know what that means, and we don't know what that calls us to. And we don't know what that demands of us. But we have a God who never stops loving and caring and drawing us forward. And that's a God that some of us have spent years and years and years having struggled to believe in because it's too good to be true. But wouldn't you rather have that kind of a God? So, this God's expansive grace in the universe opens us all up to that mystery and helps us see God as much more abundance and beauty and goodness not yet explored. Walking into the mystery of God's amazing expansiveness opens us to a God who loves and cares for our world as we explore the ever-expanding wonder of God's mystery. I mentioned before the general chapter of our congregation when we spent a lot of time talking and thinking and praying about the future. Not just the future of our congregation as an institution, but about what God might be calling us to. As we now know what we know and we never knew before about the universe, how expansive it is, and how expansive God is, and what that calls us all to be part of. To be open to the future,